This is how I currently store my box end open end wrenches. Metric on this side and standard on that, or SAE. And yeah, at the time it seemed like a good idea, but it really is a pain, because if you want this wrench you got to pull that wrench off. If you want this one you got to take these two off, you know, and so on. And I want to build a, you've seen them before where the wrenches are stacked, and I want to build something like that, but also be able to, you know, put it on my French cleat wall here, but also with that ability to just take it off and take all the wrenches over to where I'm working if I happen to need 2 or 3 of them. So that's what we're going to get started on. And I'm going to do my metric wrenches first because I have more of those. And I've laid this out on this sheet of plywood, which I'll probably end up using as my backer. And I've got some leftover red oak scraps here from a different project. And I'm going to cut these into probably 3/4 inch strips, get them straightened out here. Hopefully you can see this angle. It's not the greatest line drawing, but what I figured out is that this is a 7-degree taper down the center line, 3.5 inches to 1.5 inches. I'm going to provide a 1/2 inch space between each wrench. So my holders are going to be cut at the same time on the table saw. They'll go from here, this is the base, to the top line up here, and the other one like that, with the another angle for the wrenches. So they'll have to be cut at a compound angle on the table saw. So I'll set my sled for 7 degrees. I'll set my blade for, I'm thinking about 5 degrees. Might not even have to be that much, but I'm going to start there, I guess, and we'll see how it looks. Alright, I had to do a full-scale mock-up, I guess, so I used some poplar. Cut the bottoms at 7 degrees, the tops at 7. That's a parallel cut to the top and bottom here. This, however, I have to use my miter gauge because I've got to go on either side of 7 degrees. They look like they're mirror images, but they're not. They're mirror and opposite, I guess. So the 7mm and the 1/4 inch are nearly identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 4 pieces, start at the bottom with the smaller wrenches, work my way up. I'll do the metric first, but I'll check after I do the metric wrench to see if the American wrench fits in the same slot, and then do the other pair. Now the SAE ones are going to be shorter because there's fewer wrenches, so I'll cut that off when I get to the end. But this looks like it's going to work out pretty well. I like the way it looks, and if you can be systematic about it, I think we can get it done pretty quickly. Alright, so here's my miter gauge, and like I said, I don't know which side of I'm on here, but I'll leave it here. So 7 on this side of 0 or 90, and then 7 this way. I use my fence as my stop block because I'm not going all the way through, and I've got my blade tilted to 10 degrees. And I like the way that the wrenches drop in and can't come out. You know, if they get bumped or whatever, they won't fall out easily. I got plenty of stock here. I'm going to need 4 of these, and I've got a couple extra. Actually, these 2 will be my extras, I think. These will be my good pieces. But I'll cut these just in case, you know, you have a screw up, I guess. So that's how I'm going to do this. Let me get things situated and get these cut at 7 degrees, both are, you know, parallel cuts, They're 8.5 inches long, and then like I said, I'll trim the SAE one to length after I get them all cut. And I forgot to mention I've got my dial indicator set up here so that I can get the precise movement that I need on my fence or stop block when I'm doing this. And the other thing that I've got here, so for instance, these wrenches measure about 180 thousandths in thickness, and then I can I'm using a known blade which is 100 thousandths. I can move it in, you know, whatever increment I need to based on that. So for the first cut, and I can do 2 lefts and 2 rights at the same time. Good news is there, it speeds things up. Bad news is if you screw up 2 pieces. So for the first cut, I've got it set here. I'll run this through, then I'll dial indicator, I'll move it over 80 thousandths, make my second cut, then go back to the other side of 0 and do the same thing. So 2 left and 2 rights, and that's going to be nice. Now I've got to figure out how to index from the last cut, which is I got to go back to that and then index over 1/2 inch plus 100 thousandths. Okay, so this is the position of my last cut, which is basically my new 0. So I'm going to move this to 0, and because I've got a 2-inch indicator here, and I'm going this direction, I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1/2 inch plus thickness of the blade, 600 thousandths. Right there. That'll be my new start point. And then I'll have to reset this up, you know, zero it out again. I don't think I'll have enough travel to do one more. I'll see. But let me dial this over now. Right there. Okay, so that's my 0. That's my 1/2 inch spacing. And I'll make my cuts. These wrenches that I'm going to do measure 0.195 in thickness. So I'll go 190 and see where I'm at, and then come back and see how they look.